Today we're going to be talking about what is a good return on investment for a vacation rental property. What is a good return on investment for a vacation rental property? Going into a transaction or even going into a search for a vacation rental property and not understanding or knowing this can be detrimental to your investment. But by the end of this video, I will break this down for you fully and give you real life examples of what return on investment you should be looking for your next vacation rental property. I've met a lot of people who've bought vacation rental properties and I've asked them, what's your ROI? What's the return on investment that you expect in this property? And surprisingly, some of them didn't even have an answer. I know that sounds crazy, but when interest rates were low, everyone was buying a vacation rental property and not doing a ton of due diligence and understanding on what type of return they would get because interest rates were so low, they just knew they could rent it out, have a low payment, and make money. However, those situations could present amazing opportunities for those who understand what to look for when it comes to return on investment with vacation rental properties. And throughout this video, I will break it down for you completely by first helping you understand what are the different metrics that you need to use when evaluating vacation rentals in real estate, then give you a surefire rule of thumb when evaluating vacation rentals quickly and analyzing them quickly. And finally, dive into the numbers of the ROI for vacation rentals and what is a good return on investment you should be shooting for. If you're ready, let's go. So let's first explain these terms. ROI, a lot of people say ROI, return on investment. When you put an investment out there, what's the return you're expected to get? ROI. So if we say that term, that's what that means. Cap rate. So the cap rate is the money that you outlay if you were to buy a property outright. Let's say a property costs $500,000. You spent $500,000 on that property. What would be the cap rate? Well, the cap rate would be the annual income received from that property minus the expenses. So for example, if you spent $500,000 on a piece of property and the property produced, say, $50,000, but expenses were $12,000, $15,000. Let's say your net operating profit was $35,000. You divide $500,000 into that, that's at a 7% cap rate. And then we want to talk cash on cash return. This is the total outlay of cash and how much income, net operating income you receive after expenses and dividing your total outlay of cash into that net operating income or net profit. And that will give you your cash on cash return. And that's one of the reasons why real estate is so powerful is because you can leverage, you can borrow money against the property and your outlay of cash doesn't have to be for the whole investment price. So now let's talk specifically for vacation rental properties. All the same things apply as other real estate deals like location, financials, but here's a specific formula that I've used time and time again when I quickly analyze vacation rental properties. If the annual revenue, annual rents for the entire year are at least 10% of the purchase price, it's a deal worth evaluating, right? Maybe 3 to 5 years ago, it would be a deal that you'd maybe want to pull the trigger on. But in today's market, with interest rates being as high as they are, it's one you should at least evaluate to see if you could increase the annual rents and get it higher than that. Now, if annual rents are 15% of the purchase price, just a quick example, $500,000 for a piece of property. If your annual revenue is at least $75,000, that is definitely one that you want to consider pulling the trigger on. And if annual rents are 20% of the purchase price, we usually say that is a do not pass up deal. But it's definitely one that you should at least put an offer on and start making preparations to purchase that property because that is a pretty dang good deal. And I touched on this briefly, but when you look at a vacation rental and you begin to analyze it and say, what's a good return on investment? You need to factor in all the expenses associated with that. It's not just like some properties. I mean, there's fees, there's booking fees, there's hotel tax, there's obviously all the utilities, there's a management fee. You've got to incorporate all of these fees when you're understanding the return on investment. And especially in today's market, with interest rates being as high as they are, a mortgage payment today might be twice of what it was 3 to 5 years ago. So you analyzing the property is probably one of the most important things you can do, and understanding that return on investment is one of the most important things you can do before purchasing a vacation rental property in today's market. So when you evaluate and do a return on investment, when you calculate that, if you purchase the property outright, obviously it becomes a little bit more simple, but when you're doing a financed evaluation for a return on investment, it becomes a little bit more tricky. And I'm going to give you a real world example of a vacation rental property that I purchased in Kissimmee, Florida, next to Disney World. All right, let's jump on the whiteboard and evaluate to give you a good return on investment analysis. All right, so we found an 8-bedroom, 6-bathroom home in Kissimmee in a great development over there for $587,000. Now this is before prices exploded. They were already starting to go up, but we got a pretty good deal on this nice home in Kissimmee. Okay, $587,000. Down payment was 10% or $58,700. And closing costs were around $6,000. Now with this property, we knew there was a ton of vacation rental properties over there in the area. That's where a lot of people go, where they stay with families when they attend Disneyland. So we knew we had to put some money, invest some money into it to make it different or unique from other properties. So we spent $115,000 to get this vacation rental to look absolutely awesome. So we turned the garage into a themed theater room with Avengers in there, Avengers statues, and we turned the upstairs play area for the kids into more of a Jurassic Park with an actual robotic dinosaur in the room there that you push the button and it growls. It's amazing. I mean, the people go in there and they think it's absolutely awesome. So could we have spent, $10,000, $50,000? Absolutely. But by putting that type of money into this and getting it decorated to where it was themed out, almost every room has a different theme. It has made a world of difference on the reviews and the people that have wanted to stay there. And I'll show you how it pays off in the end here. So total renovations on this property, even though we probably could have started renting it out from day one without any renovations, we spent $115,000 on the renovations. So $115,000. Now let's add up all of our out-of-pocket expenses. So on this piece of property, total out-of-pocket expenses, $179,700. And you're probably saying, man, that's a lot of money. You really didn't buy the home for $587,000. You purchased it for well over $700,000. Well, let's look at the numbers and see if it even makes sense at this point. So just to go through this a little bit quicker, we got a mortgage 4%. The mortgage payment for principal and interest was $2,400 roughly. It is in a development that has an HOA, so taxes, insurance, HOA is another $800 a month. So total mortgage payment each month is $3,200. This is where it gets fun. Let's look at the income and some of the other expenses from the property. So the average monthly revenue from this property is $12,600, which brings the annual revenue to just over $151,000. So if we look at our just initial analysis of this property, $150,000, what percentage of that is the purchase price? It's pretty close to almost 30%, about 28%. So that's a great deal. That was a do not pass up deal. But now, as we continue to analyze, we're going to look to see if the juice is really worth the squeeze. And just to make it easy, I'll just let you know all of our expenses combined added up is close to $6,000 a month. So total expenses, including the mortgage payment, is about $9,200. And if I subtract that $9,200 from the annual rents that come in of $12,600, that leaves us with $3,400 in net operating profit every single month. As you annualize that out, that comes to $40,800 for the year. But let's look at the return on investment. We know that we spent roughly, our outlay of cash at the beginning of buying this property was almost $180,000, $179,700. Now what I want to do is I want to divide that into our annual net operating profit of $40,800. And if you divide that into $40,800, your cash on cash return or your return on investment is 22.7%. So if you were to evaluate this piece of property and say, what is the return on investment? And even though there was an outlay of quite a bit of cash at the beginning of the purchase of this property, is it still worth it? And once again, I've used this example before. If you were to come to me and say, listen, I've got $180,000 that I want to invest. And if I were to say to you, listen, I will give you $40,800 or I will give you 22.7% return every single year on that money that you give me right now, how long before your total investment's paid back? Well, if I were to give you $40,000 a year, it would take a little over 4 years to pay your initial investment back. Because if you're making 22.7% return on that money, there's not many other places you can go do that consistently. You could put it into a stock, you could put it into cryptocurrency, and you might get a great return initially. But to get that type of return year in and year out is one of the few places you can do that is real estate. And especially with vacation rental properties, that might be one of the better places to put your money because of the leverage and because of the cash on cash return. Now, obviously, if you were to purchase this property outright and put that money into it, your cash on cash return or your ROI is going to be much, much less. But because you leveraged it, you were able to get a really good cash on cash return. You're able to keep a lot of your money rather than spending $700,000. You're able to leverage about $500,000 of that money through the bank and have the revenue from the property pay your mortgage, pay all your expenses, and even begin to pay down your property because a portion of that mortgage every month goes to pay down the principal. And eventually it pays it down more and more. And if you hold on to this property long enough, you're going to have a property that's free and clear, producing an amazing income for you without a mortgage payment. So this is why real estate can be such an awesome tool for creating wealth. And one of the reasons I love vacation rental properties is because you truly can leverage and make an amazing cash-on-cash return better than you can anywhere else. And I'm a big believer in that. Now, to answer the question that we posted at the first of this video, what is the ROI I should look at for vacation rental property? I think the minimum should be 10 to 12% at a minimum that you should look at. Now, this is my evaluation. This is what I've done. This is why I love vacation rental properties, but I would love to hear from you and what you've seen or what ROI you think is good on a vacation rental property. As always, just for stopping by and watching the video, I've got a free gift for you. It is my vacation rental property evaluator. It's my calculator. You put the numbers in, you put the expenses, the income, and it spits out for you the cash-on-cash return. It spits out for you the ROI and whether it's a good deal or not. And you can have that just by visiting aaronsfreetraining.com. Just click on the link below. And once again, thanks for stopping by. Have an amazing day.